Hi everyone, today I'll be reviewing Destinies by Lucky Duck Games. Destinies is a competitive, story-driven experience full of dynamic events, epic adventures, and a constantly changing game world. On top of that, it features scan-and-play technology, which is something I was unfamiliar with and actually didn't understand the appeal of. Overall, the production quality is fantastic, consisting of things like dual-layer boards, thick tokens, custom dice, and 31 incredibly detailed miniatures. However, all of this immediately baffled me when it came to the scan-and-play technology. First off, a scanner isn't included with the game. Luckily, the printer I own has one, but if it didn't, I'm not sure how I even could have started playing. That aside, I began the arduous task of scanning the components, starting with the cards. There are 160 cards in the game, and each scan took roughly a minute to complete. Since I had to scan both sides of the cards, in the end, it took over 5 hours to scan them all. The process was tedious, boring, and I wasn't even sure what exactly this was going to be bringing to the game. Next, I scanned the dual-layer boards. There are only 3 of these, so the process was much quicker, but once the files were on my computer, I couldn't help but notice they were no longer dual-layered. They were now just lower quality and flat. I couldn't understand. Why did Lucky Duck go through the trouble of making the boards dual-layered if they were just going to end up 2D once we scanned them? It all just seemed like a tremendous waste. After this, I began to scan in the game's 15 dice. However, each die has 6 sides, which meant I had to individually scan each one. Once they were fully converted to digital files, I was totally confused. Normally, I'm able to pick up dice, shake them, and roll them in order to get a random number. However, now that the dice were just images on a computer, I couldn't figure out how to use them. Sure, I could just pick a random file and get a number that way, but it completely removed the tension you get from dice. There wasn't a single benefit I could find from this, and again, I found myself questioning Lucky Duck's sanity. Next, I started scanning in all 31 of the game's miniatures, and to be frank, this was idiotic and infuriating. Miniatures are 3-dimensional models, and there is absolutely no possible way my scanner could scan them while retaining all 360 degrees of their details. I ended up just poorly capturing the bottoms of their circular bases, rendering the files unusable and indistinguishable from one another. Additionally, miniatures are purely aesthetic components. They don't impact gameplay at all and solely exist to make the game look cool. Even if I somehow could have captured all of their details in a scan, there is no world where they would be cooler as a 2D file than as a 3D model. The entire endeavor was completely flawed from the start. I rushed through scanning all of the other components as quickly as I could, and ended up with a gigantic folder filled with over 700 files. What I don't understand is, why did I have to scan all of these? Couldn't Lucky Duck just have provided us with a download link to everything already scanned? I got literally no enjoyment out of this and can't fathom why they would advertise it as a feature. To make things even worse, the game uses an app to guide you through each session, and as soon as I loaded it up, it was almost as if it was mocking me. When you start, you are immediately greeted with full HD 3D scans of the components already loaded inside the app. It's intuitive and beautifully presented, but it begs the question, what the heck had I just been doing? Why did I spend 12 hours scanning everything when Lucky Duck has already done it, but better? Even if I wanted to forget about my scans and just use the app, that's not an option, since they force you to interact with external pieces. Whenever it told me to find specific components, I had to aimlessly scroll through my 700 files until I happened to find them. Then, I had to bring everything into Photoshop, manually crop them, and clunkily move them around. It was mind-numbingly, painfully slow. After 13 more hours, I was only a quarter of the way through my first game. At this point, I was tired, bored, and had lost all interest in playing. So, at my wit's end, I decided to put it away for good. Overall, I unfortunately think Destinies is the worst game I've ever played, which I didn't expect since many other board game influencers like the Dice Tower and Quackalope gave it incredible reviews. Could this just be a coincidence? Of course it could. But could it also be a huge conspiracy where Xerox is manipulating board game publishers and media in order to sell more scanners? I'll leave that for you to decide on your own.